One of the greatest obstacles faced by people living in poverty all around the world is the lack of access to resources they need to create opportunities for themselves and their communities. But as Full Frame contributor Sandra Hughes found out, an innovative new approach to making loans to people without access to traditional banking systems is proving to be a game changer for hundreds of thousands of people who have the potential to change their lives and communities forever.
When Charity Twinomugisha needed help to keep her small business on the outskirts of Kampala afloat, getting a loan from a local Ugandan bank wasn't an option. Instead, the 25-year-old mother turned to a micro-lender, a nonprofit organization that gives small loans ranging from $100 to $500.
Olusi obeerawo kale oyinawo bizinesi naye nga bizinesi yeetaaga mu ssente naye nga ssente toyina.
Micro-lenders traditionally require little or no collateral and don't care that much about credit scores. They do care about people like Charity. Her loan came from Kiva, one of the world's largest providers of small loans in the developing world. Modern micro-lending got its start in Bangladesh in 1976 when Muhammad Yunus founded Grameen Bank. He later won the Nobel Peace Prize for his work helping people in the developing world to lift themselves out of poverty.
The traditional way the people have access to this is to go to the local village moneylender who knows them, who eats with them, but of course that is hugely expensive. The interest rates that moneylenders charge are in thousands of percents per year. What microloans, microfinance institutions have done is they are able to offer these at a reasonable interest rate. And I think that's what makes a big difference to these people.
The most recent data from Accion International shows that 86 million borrowers worldwide received $40 billion in microloans in 2008.
How are you, Mika?
Professor Chowdhury estimates that there are currently closer to 100 million borrowers, mostly small business owners, in Africa, India, and Central America, using $50 billion in microloans. Microlending isn't just for struggling business owners in developing countries. There are plenty of folks here in the U.S. who can't get conventional loans for one reason or another and turn to microlenders. In Los Angeles, California, Ulises Duran is enjoying the sweet life thanks to a microloan of $20,000. The Mexican-born business owner was trying to expand his frozen yogurt business with a second location when he ran out of money.
We were a little bit short with the budget to finish that other project. That's when I contacted this company. Well, I knocked quite a few doors trying to find out if someone will help us to finance the remaining.
So you went to some conventional banks first?
I called up quite a few lenders, even hard money lenders.
And what did they say?
Nope.
A friend told him about Opportunity Fund, California's biggest microlender.
I called them, we meet over here. I explained them what we were doing and they start processing all the documentation. In a week, they found the loan.
Microloans have helped small business owners like Duran all across the United States and around the world. But their impact on alleviating poverty on a global scale is still unknown.
Even though studies have sort of tried to look at it carefully and they have not found evidence as strong as we would have liked, I think there are other pieces of evidence that suggest that it is working. And to me, the simple piece of evidence is that this has grown. This has grown 1,000, 10,000 times.
And as microlending grows, so do the smallest businesses. Even this stall where Charity's neighbor, Rose Nachiuni, sells charcoal and basic food items. Rose borrowed $320 from Kiva 2 months ago and has already doubled her monthly profit.
Emmere eno egenda n'ebula ate n'erinnya nnyo. Ettooke oyinza oddigula lwaleero emitwalo gumu n'ekitundu ate ogenda okuddamu ng'oliguza emitwalo gumu mu kanaana mitwalo ebiri. Bwe bityo ebintu bigenda bikyukakyuka oluusi n'ebulira ddala nga tekyalabika.
Funding dreams apparently pays off. According to Kiva, 99% of their loans are repaid. For Full Frame, Sandra Hughes in Los Angeles.
Joining me now to discuss the impact of microloans in empowering communities to alleviate poverty and expand economic opportunity is the co-founder and CEO of Kiva.org, Matt Flannery. Matt, welcome to the broadcast. Let me ask you about Kiva. What led you to start this?
Great question. We'd have to go back to 2004. I was about 26 years old. I think that's right. And I was sort of at a period in my life where I was at a crossroads. I was a computer programmer, recently graduated from Stanford with a degree in philosophy, sort of having an existential crisis about what I want to do with my life. Along with my co-founders, I went on this long volunteering trip in Africa. I was helping mostly women get small loans in a town outside of Tororo, Uganda, on the eastern border of Uganda. And through that experience, I had some revelations. First of all, people with really, really good business ideas can't simply get access to $300, $500 to do something very basic. That would obviously work. Second of all, everyone that was getting access to loans was paying them back. Third, the internet was spreading fast. So I could use the internet nearby a rather remote place and text message with my family and all that stuff. So I was like, why not have my family lend money to these people, $25 at a time, to start a small business?
It's interesting. I just read this book where this guy said, if your dream doesn't scare you, your dream isn't big enough. And I would think having this kind of idea, it's huge. And in a way, it's small, but it's huge.
Yeah.
Did you think at the time, wow, I'm onto something, but this is going to be difficult to do? And was it?
Luckily, I didn't know what I was getting into. So I've never taken an economics class. I really didn't know about microfinance. Like I said, I had a master's degree in philosophy and computer science. And I really viewed it as a project, a personal passion project, not a business. And I didn't picture it as a global thing. I pictured it as a very small thing with 7 people that I knew.
Okay, so it starts small, but obviously it's grown.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that maturity. When do you start looking at it and saying, hey, wow, we could have a large impact?
Yeah, I think it would have to be about 2 years after I started this work. I remember one day I was going to work at this software company where I worked, and I got to work and I had about 1,000 emails. And what I had realized was overnight, this blogger, the biggest blog in the world at the time, had blogged about Kiva, and we had maybe millions of viewers on my small little website overnight, and thousands of dollars started coming through. And it just became too much. And I also realized, hey, this could really work. Maybe we're onto something that doesn't just have to be a side project or a hobby, but it's really important.
I've heard you talk about this, and I thought it was really interesting how you framed it, because banks are kind of in the business to make money, not to help people kind of along the way. And you talk about this kind of pact that people used to have. Hey, I'll help you build this house if you'll help me. Talk to me about this whole kind of philosophy and how that came about, and really what you're seeing in terms of a translation of a philosophical idea and how it really is actually becoming something real.
Pretty much in every country this tradition exists. Right here in Los Angeles, people are doing this, mostly immigrants, right? Groups of people based on trust sharing money. And when you share money with a group of your friends, you typically don't pay a lot of interest. You save a lot of money together and you build up more spending power over time. So I became interested in this voyage of sort of doing that on a global scale through the internet. So what if we could build a massive savings group on the internet with millions and millions of people, sort of a global electronic savings group, where people are both borrowing and saving from country to country all around the world.
And what's remarkable is, people look at, oh, geez, I want to help, but it's going to cost a lot of money. But you make the point, $20 can go a long way, right?
It can go a long way. The first loan we ever gave was to a woman. It was a $500 loan. Her name's Elizabeth Omala. She is a fishmonger. So she was buying a few fish every day, just as much as she could afford. And then she wasn't able to buy a lot because she didn't have anywhere to put it, right? So she simply bought a freezer. And that was the bulk of where her loan went. With that money, with that freezer, she could buy, a dozen fish at a time and buy more than she can sell during a single day. It's the kind of obvious idea that would obviously work if you could do it. Just people don't have access to that kind of cash.
So now when you trace this, you must be able to trace people like her story. Talk to me about the trajectory. How quickly can you see a change in their life?
So what we usually see, and this is sort of the microfinance story, is incremental progress year over year. So a lot of the loans are agriculture loans, and a typical agriculture loan, the borrower can grow their crops yield by 20% every year. So it's not a rags to riches story, it's a tale of a lifetime of progress, right? So you get a loan to purchase seeds. In a year's time, those seeds become a harvest, and you can get a bigger loan to buy more seeds and expand like that. So I think in America, we typically look for, I started this chicken coop, and now I have a chicken factory a year later. And that's kind of the venture capital narrative, right? Around the world with informal businesses, you typically see steady progress that is won over the course of a lifetime, really hard.
In the first kind of testimonial you give us of a woman, and that's really an area where you're seeing a dramatic impact, aren't you, with women?
Yes, that is another truth about global microfinance in general. And on Kiva's website, we have about 80% women. And the main reason why microfinance focuses on women is because women tend to reinvest the profits of their business back into the family, therefore creating a positive upward cycle, right? So about 80% of profits generated by a woman's business typically gets reinvested in education and nutrition of a family, whereas the stereotype about men is not so much. Also, women tend to be more stable at the home, where men are more mobile. So it's really easy to hold women accountable. And microfinance typically depends on meetings. So group meetings in the community, typically every other week. And so you'll see in these countries where we work, if you come with me, we can go to a group meeting where a loan officer will go into a village, collect everyone every 2 weeks and have a discussion about how people's loans are going and how we're going to pay them back and how much we owe and keeping track of every penny in a passbook. And women typically work better in groups like that than men.
You mentioned the word cycle, and that's a word used to describe poverty, the cycle of poverty. And breaking that cycle, in many respects, what I'm hearing from you is if you break it with the woman and she has the children and you lift her up, obviously the kids look up to their mom and they think, wow, she can do this with her life. So it's not just breaking the cycle of poverty with one person. There are tentacles that reach out. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, in microfinance, a loan to a woman typically impacts positively the life of 5 people. So Kiva has about 1.2 million borrowers in the last 8 years. And so you could imagine that it's over 5 million people really affected both directly and indirectly by that cycle upward, which is a cycle out of poverty, but it's also an emotional and empowerment cycle as well.
I mean, it's obvious the positive impact you have at the end result. This woman has the money, she can create this business. But what about the starting point? What prompts somebody to say, you know what, I'm going to contribute this $20. I think he's onto a great idea. Maybe I can have an impact somewhere in the world. When it comes to crowdsourcing, I mean, it's a leap of faith saying, I'm going to do this, and the people are going to be there. And they were there. What do you think is the mentality behind that?
Well, I didn't have much faith in people at that time in my life. I was a little jaded. But this experience has completely changed my view of human nature. And I was because I didn't think people would be really generous is probably why it took 2 years to do this as a side project, because I didn't really think it was viable. But I was sort of overwhelmed by the generosity and compassion of now millions of people all over the world. And so I've learned that if you put a face behind charity or face in a charity, it creates a really powerful psychological dynamic where people feel naturally collaborative, naturally generous and compassionate with other humans. Problem with a lot of philanthropy is it's been faceless for a long time.
26 and jaded, that's pretty amazing. But finally, one final question. Your legacy, I mean, when you look back on life, and obviously this can be several years from now, what would you like it to be?
Well, on a career level, my ambition in my lifetime is to change the flows of money globally. So right now we have a flow from north to south, from rich countries to poor countries in general. I would like to see sort of local philanthropy everywhere. So somebody in Kenya can raise money from other people in Kenya, their community in Kenya, using the internet. And maybe someone in Kenya can help someone in Los Angeles as well. And this is global compassion flowing both directions around the world to change people's stereotype about what it means to be in poverty and what people in poverty are capable of doing.
Matt Flannery, thanks so much for coming in. Certainly
Thanks for having me. It's been awesome.
Great conversation.
Yeah.